The other comments we hear is that there is federal stimulus funding available that can be reprogrammed to the US 281 corridor, and that the Alamo RMA is either hiding something or that we have directly lied to the public by not making these projects funded through federal stimulus. As a way of reminder, back in January of this year, this board approved a $2.7 billion project list that contained a number of interim projects, those which we believe would be shovel-ready, and long-term improvements, those needing environmental clearance, but which we still wanted to consider for federal stimulus funding. We did this for a couple of reasons. One, and this list was prepared by staff for a couple of reasons. One, this action was taken by the board prior to the adoption and passage of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. The Obama administration had not taken office yet, and there was a sense of urgency on behalf of our entire community to be ready when this new administration came in with this new program ready to help fund projects, that we have our list in place and ready to go. We made a number of assumptions in this January presentation. First, that the project cost shown was adjusted for inflation based on December 30th, 2008 cost estimates. The $2.7 billion estimate may be less by the time construction actually happens on a number of these projects, but on December 30th, 2008, we were looking historically at the rate of inflation that had been experienced on transportation projects, specifically on 281 North, as well as the bid that we had in hand for the design and construction of 281 for the entirety of its 7.9-mile segment. We assumed all projects would be non-toll projects, so there is no toll gantry equipment included, nor are there financing costs. We assumed the RMA would retain operational responsibility for all the projects, and that there would not be a pot of money set aside for future maintenance of the projects from these cost estimates. Briefly to go through these, on our interim improvements, we had looked at improvements to Evans Road and the creation of a super street. As you can see, the super street in January was estimated to be $8.2 million. Our available funding is $7.78 million for this project. We are expecting and anticipating some cost savings based on the current state of the economy. We looked at a categorical exclusion for Highway 151 at Loop 1604 to extend Highway 151 at a cost of about $21 million. We had included I-10 improvements north and south of the Huebner Road intersection at a cost of $46 million. A full interchange at 281 and Loop 1604, and let me spend a moment on this. One of the other criticisms that we've heard is that the Alamo RMA could build all 8 connectors for $150 million, but instead of spending the $150 million, we're spending $140 million only building 4 connectors and punishing residents to the north. In January 2009, based on the best available engineering data we had available to us, the estimate to build all 8 direct connectors was $214 million. This is design, construction, utility relocation, an all-in cost. The $140 million project budget enables us to do 4 connectors. The reason it's not a straight duplication to go up to $280 million is you do have some cost savings if you can build all 8 at one time. But because we do not have the funding to build all 8 at one time, the decision was made from a value engineering standpoint to look at the 4 highest turning movements. Those happen to be the 4 southern connectors. By putting in direct connectors in place at that intersection for those 4 movements, we will remove approximately 50,000 vehicles a day from the intersection, saving people an average of 8 minutes per trip. And even for those heading north on 281 from 1604, who still need to exit 1604, come to a traffic signal and proceed through the intersection, their drive will go from being between a 6 to 7 minute drive during rush hour to approximately a 45-second drive during rush hour. So there is still a benefit to this entire interchange by building the 4 connectors. But we had included the total project cost of $214 million as a non-toll interchange back in January. On 281 North, we escalated the cost based on when we believe this project could start in completing its environmental impact statement, and based upon the cost that we had received, knowing the necessary right-of-way that still need to be acquired north of Marshall Road, and the $328 million construction bid that we had received from Cibolo Creek Infrastructure for the design and construction. With that inflationary indices, it became a $585 million project. Again, this number may and will change based on the environmental impact statement we're doing today. And then for Loop 1604, we'd also looked, again, at that project at a total project cost of almost $1.3 billion. We had also looked at Wurzbach Parkway, the final segments to complete this roadway. The Texas Department of Transportation San Antonio District is now proceeding forward with the environmental clearance for this project, to secure the necessary funding as well, and to complete this project. So we have a $214 million interchange project that we had submitted. We have a $585, almost $86 million project for 281 improvements based on accurate cost data from a 2008 construction bid. And our local MPO received $42.9 million in American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funding as their local share. So these are the lists that they submitted that was approved by the MPO in a unanimous vote. Option 1, as you can see, included putting all $42.9 million of local funding to leverage $237.5 million worth of funding from the Transportation Commission. The state of Texas would receive a larger share of American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds they could distribute across the state. You can see the list of projects up there. Option 2 still had the interchange being funded for the 4 connectors, still included funding for improvements at Loop 1604 Randolph Air Force Base, but would result in a leverage of $130 million, with the MPO contributing $20 million of its $42.9 million toward this total. Option 2 was what was ultimately selected and approved by the Texas Transportation Commission. And as Ms. Bertel has mentioned a couple of times, this is the funding that we have available for the interchange project. The 2 cost categories that are shown in the italices are important to note are not funds that are directly under local control. These were approved and directed to this region by the Texas Transportation Commission. If, for whatever reason, this interchange improvement was not to happen, there is no guarantee that this funding would stay within San Antonio, would stay within Bexar County, or would stay within the San Antonio District of TxDOT. I don't know if we want to get into that in any further detail. I know there was some discussion last week at the Transportation Commission. But what we're looking at right now is we have $140 million set aside for this project. If, for whatever reason, it does not happen, $20 million is the local share. $120 million, the 60 and 60 shown, could be reassigned to other projects, to other regions.
Let me add to that. Last week, the Transportation Commission met, and they've divided the funding into 4 quadrants: north, south, east, west. And there was some savings that's already starting to accrue on the American Recovery Reinvestment Act dollars that are commission dollars. And they have made the decision that any savings that accrues, it will remain in each region. So it's fair to say that if this project would move forward, that they may choose to keep this money in this region, being the southern region. That includes Hidalgo County, includes Laredo, includes San Antonio, it includes Austin. So the way they've defined it is it's no guarantee it stays in San Antonio, but it would probably stay in the southern region of the state.
I just leaned over and asked Bob Thompson, how much does it cost to file a suit? He said $100. So anybody who wants to with $100 can file a suit and put 120
million at risk.
120 million at risk. And that, you know, that's not foreign because we look at our history of what's happened and what's done here in the past. So if someone chooses to do that in terms of their civic view, it puts a lot of improvements that are positive for this community at risk. And I would sure hate to see that happen when the money in the project and the problem are all out there at 1604 and 281.